Why could not the present government bring in a legislation to override it in the last 9 years? Why has it brought in even more Hindu temples under state control? The word secular was inserted in our preamble by Indira Gandhi during the emergency. Who will control the temple after we relinquish control? Becomes untenable. Imagine a Hindu priest or a politician controlling and dictating how St. Francis Church or the Jama Masjid should be run. Tamil Nadu government controls 36,425 temples and 56 mosques. State control of Hindu temples and their property, according to me, by far, is the largest, financially most damaging scam of independent India. That it not only continues but flourishes under the present government is a sad reflection of how politicians in our country treat Hindus. Even using the petroleum sector as a cash cow pales in comparison to the loot and pillaging of Hindu temples. I do not know how and why it is beyond the limits of comprehension of the flag bearers of secularism that if you truly believe that religion should be kept out of state, the corollary is equally applicable, that the state should be kept out of religion. But is it? Secularism is total separation of religion and state. Total. There are half a dozen articles and amendments and directive principles in our constitution that make it plural, not secular. In fact, the word secular was inserted in our preamble by Indira Gandhi during the emergency. It was absent from Ambedkar's constitution. Our state declares itself to be secular, but is shamelessly not so, regulating, governing, and controlling as it does Hindu places of worship. So yes, temples matter. Hindu temples have been, for thousands of years, the centers of worship, learning, community living, trade and economy, statecraft, and even defense. Every invader has known that to dismantle India, you need to dismantle first this temple ecosystem. And every invader has managed it. What sets the British apart is that they, as invaders, managed to also pass this dismantling on to those who they ruled and subjugated. And now the latter are continuing with the dismantling, right from the Madras Regulation 7, 1817 to Religious Endowments Act 1863 to the Religious and Charitable Endowments Act 1925 to the Hindu Religious and Endowments Act 1927 to Act 12, 1935 to the Post-Independence Hindu Religious and Charitable Endowments Act 1951. Hindus have been at the receiving end of state-sponsored loot and pillaging of their places of worship. And when the 1951 legislation was challenged in the Madras High Court, and subsequently the Supreme Court, and most of the draconian provisions of the 1951 Act struck down, the Congress that was in power then quickly passed the Hindu Religious and Charitable Endowments Act 1959, snubbing the court decree. 2 years ago, the same Madras High Court dismissed a petition challenging the constitutional validity of this act, commenting that, quote, management of temples has got nothing to do with the right to worship. A Hindu can worship as much as he wants, unquote. And I have to quote the honorable judges verbatim because there already is a contempt court against me. So I don't want to have another criminal contempt of court. So this is a verbatim quote. But I ask you, if the Congress can bring in a legislation to control Hindu temples, one that still stands, why cannot the present government bring in a legislation to free Hindu temples? A petition by Swami Paramatmananda and Swami Dayananda Saraswati is pending in the Supreme Court since 2012. For more than 10 years, they can allow midnight hearings for granting mercy petitions to terrorists, but cannot spare time for this. In his plea, Swamiji gave the example of the grand Ardhanareshwara temples in Tiruchenagode, Tamil Nadu. Even though the temple generates more than 1 crore on annual income, the budget earmarked for conducting daily puja and performing rituals is a mere 1 lakh. Swami Dayananda Saraswati did not live to see the day his beloved temples would be wrested from state control. He passed away in 2015. Governments of just 10 states control more than 110,000 Hindu temples. Tamil Nadu Temple Trust alone own 478,000 acres of temple land. Tamil Nadu government controls 36,425 temples and 56 mutts. For Karnataka, the figure is 34,566. Is this what we call secularism? The communist state of Kerala has 5 Devaswam boards: Travancore, Guruvayur, Cochin, Malabar, and Kudalmanikam. Together, they manage 3,058 temples. The communists, for whom religion is supposedly the opium of the masses, are controlling Hindu temples and their boards, appointing board members on their whims and fancies. Many either belong to the Communist Party or are card-carrying members of it. Why? What business is it of the state to levy an administrative charge from anywhere between 5% to 21% on Hindu temples in the name of audit? What business is it of the state to dictate how many times a puja is to be conducted and who is to conduct it, and who is qualified to be the priest and what is going to be the procedure of worship? What business is it of the state to control tens of thousands of acres of temple land and then set rent for it? The loss to Hindu temples on account of this alone is estimated over decades to be in lakhs of crores, according to the activist and litigant T.R. Ramesh. The Tamil Nadu government, that should be earning a minimum of 6,000 crores per annum from the 2.44 crore square feet of temple land it controls, earns a mere 58 crores, not even 1%. Kapalishwara temple is one of the richest temples in Tamil Nadu, owning more than 600 acres of prime property in Chennai. State records show it has 473 defaulters, with most of its land now encroached. And these are the estimates of only one state. Because of this loss in revenue generation, Hindu temples are not able to spend money on what they would really like to spend money on. Opening up Ved Pathshalas, schools, colleges, Goshalas, fellowships and scholarships, orphanages, Hindu cultural and religious centers, all things and causes other religions and their places of worship spend their money on unencumbered. Why should only Hindus and Hindu temples suffer? Only in India can you step aside and watch as the state appoints non-Hindus, Muslims like Firhad Hakim, Christians like Vanagalpudi Anita, on boards that control Hindu temples. Only here will we remain silent as temple idols are stolen, temple property auctioned, a whole temple-driven ecosystem and way of life dismantled. Assault on temples has turned into an assault on Hinduism itself. Imagine a Hindu priest or a politician controlling and dictating how St. Francis Church or the Jama Masjid should be run. If that happens, perhaps our judiciary would indeed conduct a midnight hearing crying death of secularism. What is amusing is that the very same people who derisively call India a Hindu Rashtra are totally silent on state control of Hindu places of worship. They never stop to ask, how on earth is this secularism? You can provide Hajj subsidy for decades, use taxpayers' money to host grand iftar parties, fund AMU that has only 1.4% Dalit students and 0.25% Dalit teachers, plunder state coffers to pay monthly salaries to tens of thousands of Maulvis, ask government-run UGC to fund minority institutions that keep 50% seats reserved for Christians, step in to overturn a Supreme Court judgment just to appease Muslims, leech thousands of crores exclusively for Hindu temples, control tens of thousands of acres of Hindu temple land, spend hundreds of crores of taxpayers' money for the Kartarpur corridor. Are these not instances of the state interfering or succumbing to the demands of religion? Is this secularism? The great Mahakaleshwar temple, its revenue, its realty, is tightly controlled by the Madhya Pradesh state government, right now under the BJP, through the Mahakaleshwar Mandir Act 1982. From appointing pujaris down to even the size of the prasadam laddu. Down south, Tirupati's hundi collections from April to September 2022 alone amount to 782 crores. Now the government valuation of its property is out. 7,123 acres valued at 85,705 crores. But secularism means this temple comes under the Religious Institutions and Charitable Endowments Act until a High Court order that was issued recently. Andhra Pradesh Hindu Religious Institutions Act used to force temples that earn 5 lakhs or more to pay 21.5% of their income to the endowments department. Now the state has issued orders to set up Dharmika Parishads with draconian powers to form temple trust boards and extend land lease. Is this secularism? More than 2 years have gone by since the Tamil Nadu government informed the Madras High Court that 11,999 temples under its control do not have enough money to perform even a single puja. But then again I ask, largely overriding the Supreme Court verdict, if the Congress can bring in a legislation to control Hindu temples in 1959, one that still stands, why could not the present government bring in a legislation to override it in the last 9 years? Why has it brought in even more Hindu temples under state control than was achieved by the previous dispensation? Why does the present government gloat on constructing temple corridors like the one in Kashi at the cost of 339 crores, when it could have relinquished control over Hindu temples and allowed the latter to fund hundreds of such corridors over the length and breadth of this country? Is one half of the bi-monthly collections of Tirupati. As far as I am concerned, a Hindu temple should be publicly listed as a company. After all, it supplies a product that people buy, peace of mind and reassurance. And unlike other companies that need to constantly refine or come up with better products, a temple's product has not changed in millennia, and it never will. Indians should be able to buy stake in it and make the temple richer. The richer the temple becomes through public trading, the more it will do for the society. Schools, hospitals, orphanages, roads, housing, the list goes on. The more it does for the society, the more it will garner donations. With temples being publicly listed, the ready excuse of the government that who will control the temple after we relinquish control becomes untenable. Let the government tax the temple's wealth. No issues with that. At least the wealth generated by the temple will belong to the temple itself. At least then, the Hindus will not be so blatantly discriminated in their own countries. So yes, temples matter. And it's about time that the government realizes this. Thank you so much.